When it comes to cars that get classified as what we know as tuner cars, typically we think of anything from Japan with 4 cylinders or a turbocharger. However, we tend to forget that there are quite a few European and even domestic cars that can fall into this tuner car category as well. The Volkswagen GTI is one of those cars, a front-wheel drive manual turbo 4-cylinder hatchback that has captured the hearts of many enthusiasts around the world. And whether it's for the angry pops and bangs of the exhaust or just the overall look and feel of the car, the Volkswagen GTI has become one of the most popular cars that we see people looking for aftermarket parts for, like wheels, tires, and suspension over fitmentindustries.com. And since, it lands near the top of the list for some of the most popular year, make, model vehicle out there, we thought that we would give some insight into some modifications that you need to do to your Mark 7 Volkswagen GTI. Of course, before we go ahead and dive into all the fun stuff and talk about cool parts and wheels and things to go with, we should first go over a little overview of what exactly the Mark 7 GTI is. Stuff you should know before diving in and modifying them, weird quirks that they may have, or anything that is just an absolute must-do when you get one of these cars. First things first, the Mark 7 GTI saw its debut in the United States in 2015. It saw much-deserved restyling to match the current styling of vehicles of the time and helped get rid of a lot of the bubbliness that the 5th and 6th generations had. Powered by the 2-liter turbocharged TSI engine and paired with either an automatic DSG or manual transmission providing roughly 217 horsepower to the front wheels, this is also considered the 3rd generation of the TSI engine. Labeled as the 3rd gen TSI EA888 engine, some differences of this generation of the engine are a thinner block than previous generations, making it a little bit lighter of an engine, and it also has a little bit more horsepower and a little more fuel efficient thanks to a couple upgrades like the water-cooled exhaust manifold. As far as trouble points to watch out for with this platform in particular, it seems like, in typical German car fashion, the water pump's definitely something to keep an eye out for. Carbon buildup due to direct injection and the possibility of injection failure are also things, to kind of just keep an eye out for if you're looking at picking up a GTI or if you just did pick up a GTI. Outside of the engine itself, other common known issues with the Mark 7 GTI are like with the sunroof. They tend to leak a little bit. The easy thing to do here is just make sure to clean the sunroof drain every now and then, and it should prevent, that from happening. Other than that, there's some really fun cars to start messing around with. So with all that general information under our belt, it's time to get talking about what modifications you can do to your Mark 7 GTI to make it not only fun to drive, but look just as good. What we're gonna do is kind of break this down into a few different categories. The first being, of course, wheels, tires, and suspension. What are people running on these cars? What looks good? And of course, what sizes should you go with to get some good fitment? Next, we'll move into more performance side of things, talk about some of the best bolt-on modifications for these cars or any other performance mods that are worth it or are actually just needed to get the job done. And then to close out, any other modifications that we would recommend doing to make the driving experience a little more enjoyable. A new set of wheels can drastically change the overall look of your car and is one of the best modifications that you can pretty much do to any vehicle out there. For the Mark 7 GTI, you're going to be looking at options with a bolt pattern of 5x112. Now, it's not an extremely difficult to find bolt pattern, but definitely not the most common one out there. As far as what type of aftermarket wheels we would suggest for this car, we have a few options that are a solid go-to when it comes to the Mark 7 GTI. The first choice being the Koenig Ampliform. Now, Koenig does a really good job at hitting all markets of vehicles with their aftermarket wheels, from JDM, KDM, Euro, domestic, you name it. The Ampliform is one of those wheels that does look good on a lot of different body styles, and it has the right sizes for these cars. Koenig does a really good job not only with the design of their wheels, but also the performance as well. Using a flow forming technology to essentially forge forged barrel of their wheels keeps the Ampliform lightweight and strong. Another huge name, of course, in the aftermarket wheel game, especially when it comes to Euro cars, is of course Rotiform. Now, probably the most popular wheel from Rotiform, and especially for this car, is the Rotiform RSE. Looks absolutely amazing on pretty much anything that you can put it on. Multi-spoke design that fits perfectly with the styling of the GTI, and even has the ability to run the Rotiform Aerodisc, which is that turbofan-like cover that mounts to the center cap of the wheel and opens up like a whole new world of customization in the form of wraps or paint of the Aerodisc itself. Speaking of the right sizes, let's talk about that for just a second. What size wheels are people running on their Mark 7s? Well, typically we see people go with something like an 18 or 19-inch wheel with a size of width of anywhere between 8.5 to 9 inches is typically where you're going to find yourself. As far as offset, these cars actually do run a pretty high offset. Something from like a plus 45 and dropping down to about a plus 35 is a range that you want to stick to without having to really mess with rolling or pulling any fenders. Something like an 18 by 8.5 plus 45, usually what we see a lot of people go with their Mark 7. Now, if you get a new set of wheels, typically you're going to need a new set of tires to go with it, and we would recommend going with something like the Falcon ZE960 All Season, Continental Extreme Contact DWS 06 Plus, or if you want some more performance, the Michelin Pilot Sport 4S, depending on what you're looking to get out of your Mark 7. Now, if it's more of a daily, I'd recommend something like the Falcon or the Conti. If you're looking for something a little more spirited driving, maybe go snag a set of Michelin Pilot Sports, but truly up to you. But those are some 3 solid tire choices to keep in mind. And finally, suspension. Always a good idea to lower your car. Get rid of some wheel gap, bring that center of gravity down to the earth, and of course, dial in that fitment. If you're looking to go the coilover route, BC Racing can never really go wrong. And of course, Airlift Performance 3P, by far one of the most best options for airlift suspension out there, or air suspension, because it comes with everything you need, super easy to install, and it's really straightforward. The GTI has been a perfect formula to be a great tuner car. 4 cylinders, got a turbocharger, and a great amount of aftermarket support. Bolt-on modifications are the way to go when it comes to these types of cars. Simple bolt-ons and tunes can unleash a good amount of horsepower, surprisingly. There's what we like to call a trifecta of modifications that you can do to get the most bang for your buck, and that includes an intake, an exhaust, and some sort of tune. Companies like APR and ME Performance make some great options for an aftermarket intake that can feed the turbo in your engine a little bit more air. Turbo cars also love aftermarket exhaust, especially downpipes. It's one of the biggest restrictors on these kinds of cars. Brands like APR and ME Performance, again, make some great options for exhaust parts, as well as CTS seem to be some of the top brands that Mark 7 owners like to go with. Cobb, of course, had to have a go at this platform as well, and is one of the most trusted off-the-shelf tunes when it comes to the turbocharged cars of today. Now, the only real issue here, and kind of one of the downsides to these cars, is the stock clutch is pretty much garbage for anything over stock horsepower. It's going to start slipping like crazy. Basically, if you're looking at adding any sort of horsepower to your Mark 7 GTI, you can almost always expect that you're gonna need to upgrade your clutch, which can get a little bit pricey, so I would definitely budget that into your modification list. As far as other modifications that you can do to make your GTI your own, you can never go wrong with some sort of lip kit, kind of get some aggressive aero going on if that's kind of your jam, or just something nice and subtle. And as far as the interior goes, interior is really not too shabby. They look pretty good. A lot of people tend to switch out the seats, you know, go with like a Corbeau or something like that, kind of tie everything in nice and neat. And then of course, like an aftermarket shift knob or something, just to get the feel just the way they want. But other than that, you know, not really a whole lot of other modifications to really do to these things, unless you go, you know, like crazy wide body, or you go like a one-off body kit or something like that. A lot of people do tend to go with a little bit more of aggressive wing for the rear hatch to kind of, you know, if they don't have a stock one, or if the stock one's just not enough for them. But overall, they look really damn good from the factory, and they're already kind of decently quick, and they take modifications really well. So if you're looking for some new wheels, tires, or suspension for your Mark 7 GTI, or maybe some MA Performance parts, don't forget to hit up fitmentindustries.com or MA Performance and go check out what they offer as well. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'm Giles from Fitment Industries. We'll see you later.